What's up, everyone? Jim and Ahmad here with Keepin' It Real, the IGN movie show. We're going to talk about some big comic book movie trailers that dropped this week. We had Logan and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Two very cool trailers. Let's just kick it off. What did you think of the Logan trailer and then the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 trailer?
The Logan trailer, clearly they said, okay, Deadpool works. We're going to make our R-rated Wolverine movie that you've been asking for.
Yeah.
You know, we tried it the second movie, and we tried to make as R-as-a-looking movie as we could, and did a PG-13, and this time we're going to go full R. And
Yeah.
I think the fans are already excited.
Yeah.
I think
Claws through the head. That one.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming.
Neither did he.
Yeah, clearly. And I think it should be interesting. I think Manigold probably has it in the right direction.
Yeah.
It'll be curious on the amount of changes from the Old Man Logan story and how much of that stays in the film.
Right.
But either way, if you set it in that kind of zip code, it should make for an interesting movie.
What'd you think of the Guardians trailer?
It was great.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just enough to be like, okay, I'm excited again.
Yeah.
Back on the Guardians hype train.
It was a very, they're two incredibly different trailers, but both very effective in doing what a trailer is supposed to do, which is get you hyped for that movie. I'm going to give the edge to the Logan trailer because I feel like it was not what I was expecting. It was very haunting, provocative, sad, and just the use of the Johnny Cash cover of Hurt, which is a nice nod because James Mangold, the director, did Walk the Line, the Johnny Cash biopic. But it just set it apart from all the other X-Men movies and from other superhero movies.
Yeah.
So I think my takeaway is that Old Man Logan and Baby Groot won the week.
Definitely.
Because the Guardians Volume 2 trailer it did, just enough to kind of remind you, like, hey, you love these people, like that almost sort of echoey version of Hooked on a Feeling. And then just the payoff at the very end of Baby Groot on Rocket's shoulder. I'm like,
that won everybody.
Yeah. What is it about Baby Groot we love? I mean, he's adorable, but it's just, yeah.
Space cute tree? I don't know. It's just, I think with Logan, though, I think they're finally beginning to make, hey, we're going to make a movie that's of a specific genre that will have a superhero character in it.
Yeah.
And it not make a superhero movie and then figure out the genre second. They're making a drama.
Yeah.
And it just happens to have some superheroes that we're familiar with.
It was, oddly enough, it felt more like an end-of-the-world movie than X-Men Apocalypse did.
Oh, definitely.
Just from that trailer, I felt more of like a sense of things are coming to an end than I did with like the world being blown up around you in the entirety of the X-Men Apocalypse movie and the trailer. But like, what were, the Logan trailer though also, revealed some elements and some things that we had been speculating on, and just confirmed some things like, Professor X just being a shell of what he used to be. It's sad.
Which we've seen in different forms. We've seen younger Professor X being a shell.
Yeah.
And then, Logan kind of like, all right, come on, get off your ass.
Yeah.
And then kind of reeling it back in to kind of like Logan has to go there and kind of reinvigorate Professor X again. And
it's a kind of a cool companion piece to Days of Future Past, then, in a way,
Definitely.
There's also though that if Professor X is, think about it, a telepath suffering from dementia, is an incredible idea, an incredible concept, because think about it, he's hearing all these things, but to him, none of it is real. All of it is real. He doesn't know. It's very sad to see these two characters, end up in this boat. What do you think actually happened in this timeline? Because we're not getting the sense that it's probably maybe 20 years after Days of Future, but it doesn't seem significantly like...
No, this doesn't seem like it's not like Days of Future's Past where you have, the 70s and then you have way in the future.
Yeah.
This is near future.
Yeah.
And it, first of all, you can tell by all the cars in the film that it's still in vaguely modern times. Maybe, there's a lot of trucks in it. They look fairly modern. So it doesn't look like it's super far in the future. It just looks like there's, like with all X-Men movies, there's part of the timeline where you go either this way or this way.
Right.
And one shift and everything changes. So, and also looking at the trailer, you get the impression that this is going to cover multiple periods of time. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if maybe there are two different timelines within the film, which would make a lot of sense for an X-Men movie.
Well,
love their timelines.
yeah, but I'm also wondering what exactly happened to the mutants. It looks like they're pretty much extinct. Is this sort of? I wonder if this isn't a more thoughtful way of handling some of the things that X3, The Last Stand, was trying to do. Excuse me, excuse me, just getting over a cold. You know, was there a virus that drove mutants extinct, or somehow turned their powers on them? Something happened to Logan where his age caught up to him and his healing factor isn't working like it used to, because now you see all the scar tissue.
Yeah.
And he's clearly, for a guy who's lived hundreds of years, all of a sudden things caught up to him real fast. It's kind of like the way like Mel Gibson suddenly aged like 20 years from 1998 to like 2005. I'm sorry, Mel, I'm just saying.
It happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think definitely they can. I wonder if maybe they'll tie it in with some of the things that were kind of happening in the last couple of movies. Like, hey, you know, we were working on this cure and this virus and these same types of things that you've seen them do in the films, and like maybe Stryker was actually successful for once.
Or there's also, though, the Essex Corp, which we saw, I believe, teased at the very end of X-Men Apocalypse. So maybe they pulled off something finally and did, you know, kill off the mutants.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if they're going to do this as almost sort of, and I know it's a different comic line, but like an Elseworlds thing of like, well, this could be the future of the X-Men, or maybe it's a possible future.
Which it's looking very much like Old Man Logan, and Old Man Logan functions like an Elseworlds type of tale.
Yeah.
Like, hey, here's the United States as run by supervillains. Here are the little segments. It's like, you know, very similar to DC's Kingdom Come.
Yeah.
Where this is not the future, but it's a possible future.
We also saw Caliban in the trailer, and we've seen his photo release this week. Now, Stephen Merchant plays him. He's generally known for comedy, but he's a huge guy. He's like 6'6".
Really?
Yeah, and I saw him at LAX once, and he's just how that man fit on a plane, I don't know. Like, it must have been miserable traveling for him. But you know, it's weird because we just had Caliban and X-Men Apocalypse. So
Yeah,
it's
odd
yet
choice.
again like the X-Men movies, their choice of timelines make no sense.
When it comes to continuity in X-Men movies, every movie starts at zero.
Yeah.
It's like, well, we'll reference things that happened in other films, but we're basing every movie as a new timeline, which I think they've tried to work into the story in some ways, some more successful than others.
Right.
Usually not. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe this is the movie that fixes some of the timeline issues, but also puts an end to this particular story of characters, and maybe we'll see something different after this.
Yeah, I really do think they mean it when they say that this is Hugh Jackman's last one. So
I'm sure he's ready for some rest.
well, let us know what you thought of the Logan trailer. I also want to talk just a little bit more about Guardians 2, and just saying that we didn't see Ego, we didn't see Mantis, and we didn't see Aisha, the three biggest characters in Guardians of the Galaxy. Well, biggest new characters in Guardians Volume 2. What do you think? Why hold back on that?
It's early. They have time.
Yeah,
There's no reason.
don't need to.
All they have to do is remind people that Guardians 2 is a thing that's happening. It's coming in a while. Here are the characters that you loved the first time. Here's a little more of them. They kind of, you know, the part with Drax and Star-Lord kind of banter. Like, oh, okay. This is just a little wake-up call. Hey, your Guardians will be ready in a couple of months. We'll come back to you in a minute.
Yeah, there's far less, and it could just be because maybe the effects aren't ready, but less of Rocket and Groot in this trailer than I expected. There was far more of Gamora and Drax and Peter Quill, than I would have expected. But
Always happy to see Gamora. She's awesome.
now let's move on to some other Marvel things that happened this week. But I'm going to leave it again as Baby Groot and Old Man Logan won the week. So two very good trailers. You know what was a trailer that dropped this week that didn't really grab me? Assassin's Creed, the second trailer for it. What did you think of that trailer?
I don't know that it's at the point where it's necessarily winning new audience.
Yeah.
It seems like it's like, okay, here's our cadence. Here's the next trailer. Okay, it's out. Movie's coming out. Usually with the trailer, like you said, you want to, remind people that it's coming. You want to get people interested in. I don't know that maybe within 48 hours of this trailer dropping, I don't remember, I felt like all of the conversations had already stopped by that point.
And I didn't feel like it offered me any new information. In fact, if anything, I felt like it confused me more about what the movie is. If you didn't play those games, you'd have no idea why are they trying to send somebody back in the past. Like, what is the function? What is the purpose of doing that? And I thought the use of the song in the trailer just sort of, it drowned out other things that were going on, and it didn't really show anything new that we hadn't seen in that first trailer, which I thought was a stronger trailer.
I think what they need is like with the Rogue One story trailer, where you and Terry were talking about it, and we're like, I don't know if these trailers are quite grabbing me yet.
Yeah.
And that was those trailers. The first trailers should be generally for the wide audience,
Right.
and then you get a little specific as they go in, or somewhere in the middle. This was kind of I don't know. This should have been the trailer to give everybody, because we're very close to the movie coming out.
Yeah, it's just a couple of months away.
So they should be like, this is what the movie's about for people who don't know what this is.
Yeah.
Which is what they did with the Rogue One trailer. Like, this is what here's this character, and then here's the other character, and their parents, and here's the Death Star, and then here's the other characters, and stuff blows up, and now you know what it is. And you're like, okay, we're on.
Right.
This is like, I'm
There's
gonna
a
go get the
guy.
game because maybe that will help me understand what this is.
There's a guy and an ancestor, and
Jumping.
Jeremy Irons is up to something no good, and Marion Cotillard is there, but you don't get a sense of what am I actually what am I gonna get it from this movie? Like, what is it really about? It's a story about a guy who but I don't know. I mean, I hope that works. We've talked ad nauseum about the need for a good video game movie. Hopefully that will do it. Now, I just want to say, you guys last week, you and Terry talked about the new Rogue One trailer, and I know I was mentioned in passing, but I will say I really liked that trailer, and it did turn the ship around for me on being interested in Rogue One, being pumped for it. That was the trailer that they needed, and it sold me on an emotional hook for that story, which everything else had been cool, but cool. Like, it had left me kind of cold.
Yeah, the other trailers were, I think, probably for the endemic Star Wars audience. So like, hey, you know what this is.
Yeah.
You know that somebody stole the Death Star plans. Here they are. Here are the people that did it. There's the Death Star. Here's an AT-AT. We're good, right? Okay, cool.
See, now you say AT-AT too. Our generation, they grew up, it was in commercials, they said AT-AT, and we have so many people calling us out saying, no, they're AT-ATs.
The books, I was listening to an audiobook of a Star Wars recently, and they called it an AT-AT in the book, and I was like, no.
I'm telling you, people, you're wrong. It's AT-ATs. It's
AT-AT
combined flame.
got me this job.
Right? There
I'll
we go.
explain another
You heard
time.
it here first. Now, let's. We're going to talk more about Star Wars at the end of the show, but I want to move on to some newsy stuff from this week. Believe it or not, it's about comic book movies. Who'd have thunk it? Evidently, there's a lot of them coming down the pike. Actually, maybe this would be a good time for a reader email.
Excellent time.
Now, this one is from a few weeks back, actually, and we're just getting to it now. It is from Basil Frank, writing in, and his subject line is, comic book movies, will it ever end? I'm sorry, Basil, that's probably not how you sound at all, but I just had to say it like that. That was almost like my Chris Carl moment right there. He's just saying, my question to you guys is exactly what the title says. Will comic book movies ever end? I'm jumping forward here a little bit. It seems like each year we get the exact same recipe with a different skin in the movie or video game in this case. It makes a ton of money and overshadows the smaller titles. Yada, yada, yada. Am I the only one who is slightly starting to feel that I need a bit of a break? Ahmad, what do you think?
I've been saying this for a while. I'm concerned about audience burnout in relation to comic book films. I think that studios are, and I feel like Marvel's kind of going in that direction, where they're maybe changing the type of superhero films they were putting out. Definitely doing a Guardians movie where it's basically a science fiction film.
Yeah.
You know, it has the trappings of a superhero film, but for the 90% of it, that's a sci-fi film.
Right.
Putting existing rappers on genre rappers, like, hey, Logan is kind of a post-apocalyptic Western, maybe.
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy is a sci-fi adventure film. Maybe different types of film, dramas and all these other types, or comedies, or the way Ant-Man was a heist movie. Picking an existing existing film genre, and then putting a superhero in it, where, not unlike the Luke Cage series, where you took basically a drama. It's a drama series, and they put it in a real environment. They put Marvel characters in it. Doing it that way instead of building around a superhero origin story and all of that mess from the start that people are kind of getting burned out about. Basically making movies and dropping superheroes in them, I think will kind of help alleviate that. And also, Marvel does their next phase, and it's all in space. I think that gives people a little space from all of the different companies who are. We've got Fox, we've got Marvel, we've got Sony, we've got Warner Brothers. Valiant is just itching to get a movie out there as well. There are, and then there's the Hasbro kind of shared universe, and even though those are toys, it's still in the same genre.
Right.
So there is definitely burnout waiting to happen, and I think these studios are going to have to get smarter about making these types of films.
Well, I think on that tip, Doctor Strange is going to be an interesting kind of litmus test, because it is pushing the MCU into the supernatural now, and offering up, like, Inception style kind of visuals for a broad audience to kind of wrap their head around. However, and I can say this, Eric Goldman and I have both seen the movie now. His review will be going up Sunday, like basically Saturday going to Sunday, 12:01 a.m. Pacific time. We can both say that we liked it. We thought it was really good, but not great. And I'll let him speak to the specifics of all that, but it's got a lot of origin story stuff. In some ways, it's refreshing in that it's almost like Ant-Man did, kind of goes back to that Iron Man kind of like keep it simpler kind of thing. Yeah. Like, for a movie that's so much about the multiverse and these other dimensions, a lot of it is people indoors talking too. Like, there's a lot of just like, I'm in the hospital, I'm in the in the monastery, I'm in the Sanctum Sanctorum. So it'll be interesting to see how audiences respond to that one. And I think on Basil's question, I think even somebody like Taika Waititi, who is directing Thor Ragnarok, is hip to that. And he recently said that he is trying to distance his film, which I believe just wrapped filming, from the last two Thor films. Visually going for more like the sci-fi fantasy art style of like the 80s and the 70s.
If you look at the
80s.
logo, when they came out with the revised logo, it looked like the Mega Man logo. It looked like, you had your little silver and your little gradient in there.
Masters of the Universe vibe.
Yeah, or it had an 8-bit feel to it. I was like, when I saw that logo, I was like, he's doing something different with this movie. Like, it looks interesting.
He also, he has said a number of times, but he reiterated during this, I believe it was a Reddit AMA, that he wants Thor to be cool, to be the center of attention, that I think he said he's not going to be a lunk or a dullard. Do you think he's been a little harsh on the first two Thor films?
No, I mean they're fine. I feel like they're maybe the least exciting of all of the Marvel films, but not the least interesting. Mm-hmm. The first Thor was fine. I think it was just the scale on you had Earth and Asgard, and that makes it a large-scale movie, but as far as physical locations, the Earth location was tiny, and it felt really small. It didn't feel like Thor's on Earth and he's getting into these large Earth things. It was like Thor goes to Mayberry. It was just a very, very small set, and it felt small.
Yeah, it did.
Where, you look down a block, and then there's like nothing past it.
Yeah, he saved 2 blocks in, Albuquerque, New Mexico. So,
But whereas the second Thor looked a little bigger, the scope felt bigger. Yeah. I thought it was okay, the second Thor. But I think this, seeing this other film, this new Thor 3, the scope feels bigger. It feels like more of a galactic movie. It feels very large, and hopefully the inclusion of Hulk in it will make it a little even larger. And
Yeah.
This one I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, and that going back to Basil's question too, that that will offer people something new, and it could get to the point where maybe Marvel is going to be sort of like Disney animation, where look, we're inundated with animated films. And not all of them work. I mean, it took DreamWorks Animation a long time to become truly competitive with Disney. It took, Illumination Entertainment a little while too, but once they hit the ground running with the Despicable Me movies with the Minions and with Secret Life of Pets, now they're competitive.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, you have the standard bearer, Disney Animation, and then all the ones that compete with it, but not all of them
Second
hit.
tier.
And I feel like that's what it's basically now what we're dealing with in the comic book movie realm, which is you have Marvel, and then you have all the other either pretenders to the throne or would-be usurpers to the throne.
Yeah.
With DC obviously being the biggest one. They're sort of like their DreamWorks Animation to their Disney.
I mean, at this part, just because if you're looking at just starting with BVS, they're still at the beginning of this.
Yeah.
They're still in their Iron Man, Incredible Hulk phase of their lineup. So, they still have a long way to go. They still have Justice League and the Batman and Wonder Woman, and other movies, which I'm sure will have dates that change because of just how this is going to work. But it's too early to tell with DC.
Right.
But clearly they're right. They're right on the heels of Marvel, obviously, especially with box office.
Now let's talk about some other Marvel and DC stuff going on. The Batman, the Ben Affleck solo film. Joe Manganiello, see Daniel Krupa. It's pronounced Joe Manganiello. I'm sorry, I'm all stuffed up.
He
this
knows.
week.
He knows how to pronounce it.
I don't think he does, actually. But he said that filming, he's playing Deathstroke, filming is going to start in spring 2017. Right around the corner, people. We're that close to a Batman solo film.
It's Batman solo film in 2018. Sure, I'm interested. I'll say it every time I'm on here. Is like I thought Affleck did a great job as Batman.
Yeah.
And we already know that he's a competent director. I'm actually excited about his next movie that's coming up. And
Live by Night?
yeah,
That looks rad.
yeah,
And it's not just because it's about a guy from Boston,
no, not just that.
but it helps. Certainly helps.
I mean, I saw The Accountant. I know you saw it recently.
Yeah,
I saw
yeah.
it right after you, and I good in that too.
Yeah. I mean, look, he's come a long way since being the bomb in Phantoms, So he's definitely. I did like in the Live by Night trailer in the poster. He's like rocking this Dick Tracy looking outfit, right? He's got.
But it's like
a
one
yellowy
size
hat.
too big.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think they're trying to make him look like he's supposed to be like a heavier guy than he is, but yeah. Some other Marvel stuff. Now, this is the X-Men universe related stuff. Collider, I believe it was Collider, forgive me if I got that wrong, is reporting that the 6 contenders to play Domino, the mercenary mutant in Deadpool 2, are Mary Elizabeth Winstead,
Always good.
Lizzie Kaplan,
Great.
Sienna Miller,
Okay.
Sophia Boutella, who
Star Trek.
Star Trek Beyond. She played Jayla, but she was also in Kingsman: Secret Service, the Razor Legs henchwoman,
And she's going to play the Mummy.
and she's going to play the Mummy. We had her on our live stream at San Diego Comic-Con. Very nice young lady. Stephanie Sigmund, who had a small role in Spectre. She was in the Mexico City sequence. She's the young lady that Bond brings up to the hotel. Looks like they're going to hook up, and then he ditches her to go fight.
Sorry, I
some
got
bad
to
guys.
shoot some dudes.
Yep. It's basically like she was just his reason for getting up to his vantage point. And then a model actress named Sylvia Hakes. I'm sorry, I don't know how to say that. She's been in a lot of foreign stuff, but she's going to be in Blade Runner 2049. I have a feeling, I think you're going to see somebody like either Sophia Boutella or maybe Lizzie Kaplan get that. I love Mary Elizabeth Winstead, but I think you're going to see somebody with either a more kind of unique kind of physical presence, like, and I think Sofia Boutella has that. She's got that sort of, like, she's proven in Kingsman and Star Trek that she can use her physicality in more ways than just looking sexy. She has a danger to the way she moves and the way she fights, and I think that would play off well against like Deadpool's more sort of
Joking.
way.
Kaplan can fit in there because Kaplan can do drama with Masters of Sex.
Yeah.
She can do action with Cloverfield, and she can. I feel like on the comedy, she can kind of go back and forth.
Yeah.
With Reynolds probably better.
And she
than
wasn't she in that Marvel one shot, the weapon one?
She was.
Yeah. So she was
Item 47, I think.
But Sienna Miller.
Party Down.
Sienna Miller, I can't quite see Sienna Miller in this. I think she to me is a much more straight dramatic actress. Maybe she would rock because.
Yeah, you don't know
People
if they're
aren't
looking,
expecting this from her, you know.
You don't know if they're looking for like a straight person to Reynolds
Yeah.
or someone to play off them. It'd be interesting to see what direction they're going in.
I do love Mary Elizabeth Winstead though, but I would almost rather see her join the MCU in like a bigger, with a big role. I always thought she would have been great for Captain Marvel, but you know, hey, look, Brie Larson, no slouch. You know, so I love that too.
And she seems to be diving into prep for that one.
So you guys tell us, who do you want to see play Domino based on these 6 reported contenders? Who gets your vote? Let us know in the comments. Now, for the superhero, we didn't know we needed again, but apparently we do. Captain Planet.
Global warming, we need that dude.
Yep. Now more than ever.
Yeah, now more than ever.
You know who's going to be producing that movie? Leonardo DiCaprio, Mr. Ahmad to save the planet. You know, not too shabby. He's going to produce it along with Glenn Powell, who was on Scream Queens, who is also Glenn is also co-scripting it. Now we don't know who is playing Captain Planet. Maybe it's Glenn Powell, but I'm gonna throw this out there. Ahmad, shouldn't Leo play Captain Planet?
I'm trying to picture him in a suit. Hey, he's
He's
never
got
done
his
it.
Oscar. What does he got to
Yeah.
prove now? Go ahead, Leo. Stop
This
being
is all
so serious.
retirement
Do
money
it.
at this point.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch the show?
Hell no.
Yeah.
I was a grown ass man by the time that thing was on.
I did watch the Funny or Die skit with Don Cheadle. That one still
That
cracks
one
me
was
up.
great. Yeah.
It'll be interesting if they take what kind of direction they go with it.
Yeah.
If it's serious, if it's a traditional superhero, if it's kind of Brady Bunch campy. I mean, they could go a million directions.
Well,
with
look at what the Power Rangers trailer showed. You know, you take something like a Breakfast Club kind of coming of age, kids on the wrong side of the track, and then you throw it into this other genre. You know, Captain Planet had his little buddies or underling. What the hell was that team called again?
I don't know.
I'm
the
just
little
gonna
crew of kids.
I'm just gonna call them, you know, Team
Nature.
Team Green. I don't
Yeah,
know.
Team Green.
You know, maybe that's their end point, and Captain Planet isn't necessarily the main character. You're following these kids instead. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Should Leonardo DiCaprio be our Captain Planet? I think so. Ahmad, you're on the fence. You don't really
Totally on the fence.
totally on the fence. You just don't know if you want to see him in a suit.
I can't see him in a suit. I think they're going to have to give him, if he's Captain Planet, he's got to have some interesting outfit that he can put on and not look ridiculous.
I think he should look as ridiculous as possible. I think Leo needs to finally kind of loosen up, have a little fun. You got your Oscar. You proved yourself.
He had a lot of fun in Wolf of Wall Street.
Right?
Maybe too much. Maybe too much.
Maybe a little too much. We want to know, what do you guys think? Who should play Captain Planet? Are you with me? Should it be Leo? Let us know. It should be Leo. I'm sorry. No, I'm just being a dick. Let's see. Oh, here's something weird this week we found out. Now, David Heyman, the producer of the Harry Potter franchise and, of course, the kind of spin-off prequel, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, he told, I think it was Variety, he's producing a Willy Wonka movie. Now, it's not the Roald Dahl Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which we've now had 2 versions of, with the old Gene Wilder one and, of course, the Burton Depp remake. This is going to be a Willy Wonka early years movie, not an origin story. They said they were kind of weird about the language, but what do you think about, like, basically trying to turn Wonka into its own kind of IP? A Wonka will rise.
I think it's a little soon because
Yeah.
the Depp Burton version was not that long ago. We're talking a couple of years. Interesting. I think the world of, by the time in both films, by the time you get to Willy Wonka, he's fully formed. He's almost at the edge of his retirement. And there are definitely a ton of stories, just like in the books, there's a ton of stories to tell there. I'm just curious if the audience is interested or not.
I do wonder. Maybe part of it is, from the producer of Harry Potter, gives it that bit more prestige and a bit more. This won't suck, frankly, is what what you're buying because I think I could be wrong, and I didn't check this before I came in, but I think David Heyman also produced Paddington Bear,
which was good.
Which was good, which was surprisingly good.
It's fun.
And we all thought it was going to suck, and we all had great fun with the creepy bear effects when it first came out. Like, I loved all the memes about him, like, sneaking up behind people like a horror character. But in the context of the movie, it actually worked and was quite, cute.
Kidman was great.
And they're making another one.
Really?
I think, what's his butt? Hugh Grant is going to be in it, too. And, so they've released a teaser poster already for it.
Right.
So Paddington's coming back. But anyways, my point is that maybe you could make a Willy Wonka work, but I think it comes down to who plays him. Now,
casting speculation time.
We have our suggestions. Now, I'm going to go.
Yeah, I was gonna say who's your number one, number two pick?
I'm thinking David Heyman, and sure, this might not be the most imaginative leap here, but he did produce Fantastic Beasts and he did produce Harry Potter. What do you think about Daniel Radcliffe as young Willy Wonka?
That makes sense,
right? He could kind of do it. He's got the quirkiness now, and he's grown as an actor even more. Just watching him from the very first Harry Potter movie to the last one, the kid just got his groove finally, and he's not very good in the first one, but come on, he's just a little kid, know. And then by the time he gets to the end of that series, to Deathly Hallows 2, he's such a good young actor, and now you see him up through like Swiss Army Man, and he's a young man now, and he's a good, solid actor, and I think he could bring just enough kind of offbeat kind of
there's
quality
quirk,
to it.
there's a kind of a youthfulness about him, which you got with Depp, and you got
quite maybe all
something
there,
a little weird. He'd be a perfect choice.
You know who else could be kind of interesting? And he's in Fantastic Beasts, and he's also soon to be The Flash, Ezra Miller. Now, I don't know, did you see We Need to Talk About Kevin?
No.
That is such a good movie.
I always hear
that.
Guys,
you got to go see that one. That's a great movie. He's scary as hell in that movie. It's basically about this kid, Tilda Swinton plays his mom, and he's a bad seed, and it really speaks to the sort of the era of school shooters and all that sort of thing. But Ezra Miller is just fantastic in it. So that's why when you see him as like quirky, funny Barry Allen, it's like this kid's got range. So I think he might not be such a bad choice for Willy Wonka as well.
Doing the off-kilter kind of.
Yeah. Now we also were kicking around a couple of folks before we start recording. I'm going to slaughter his name. Tom, my producer, told me how to say it. Richard
Moss from IT Crowd.
Ayoade. Richard Ayoade. Now, he's a filmmaker and he's a funny guy. He did the movie The Double.
He passes the quirk test, but you were saying he did.
Well, he did this movie The Double. He directed it, but you guys would know him from just his look. Like he's got kind of he's
big afro.
He's got big eyes, but he's got like he would have been a great doctor in Doctor Who.
Oh yeah.
I also suggested like he'd be a great one to take over as Q in the Bond movies. Yeah. But he's got that slightly offbeat thing. Like there's a benevolence to him, but I could see him flipping, and I think Wonka kind of needs that.
Yeah. If you haven't seen the IT Crowd, go find it. He's great in it.
Yeah. Anybody else jump to mind? I mean, I guess maybe McAvoy, but maybe he's a little too easy.
He's a little straightforward.
What about Joaquin Phoenix?
I'm sure that would fall under things that he would probably think about, like, okay, maybe
Yeah.
He seems to always be up for a challenge.
Yeah.
And I think this would be a little out of his zip code. And I'm like, I'll try it.
Yeah. So. Well, we want to hear your suggestions. Who do you think could be the new Willy Wonka? What do you think of ours? Are they completely left field? Do they suck? Are they good? Let us know in the comments.
Who was your favorite Willy Wonka?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good one. Gene Wilder.
Yeah.
So, in our closing moments here, because I'm getting over a cold. I think you're probably fighting one or something, but
I'm perpetually congested. I sound like this all the time.
so we look, people, we gotta get going here. But we want to talk about Star Wars, Rogue One. Now, last week we had that new trailer, and I just reiterated how much I really like that one. And
Glad to have you on board.
I know. I'm finally like I can justify saying a couple of podcasts ago about how I was like, what are the movies you're most psyched to see the remainder of the year? And I did say Rogue One, and I had to put the big but caveat.
Yeah.
But now I'm going to turn to your Star Wars expertise, Ahmad, to fill us in on. We did a couple of pieces on the site this week. One was your idea of the state of the Star Wars universe, the state of the Empire, where the Jedi now. Our writer Jesse Shadeen wrote it up, but tell folks a little bit about where did all the Jedi go? Now I know there was the Order 66 and all that, but
There's a long period between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope.
Yeah.
And I think when you see the Rogue One trailer, if you haven't read any of the novels, you're not watching Rebels, you're just watching the films, doesn't seem like long enough to really forget about the Jedi. Even the parts in The Force Awakens when you have Finn and Rey talking about the Jedi, like, they're even their perceptions of who Han Solo is, the smuggler, the rebellion general, you get the impression that there's not one set of information that everybody in the Star Wars universe has. Different pockets have different levels of information. Certain people only know of certain things. And when you get to this period, where Rogue One looks like it takes place really just before A New Hope, like probably days, months, weeks, that kind of thing, maybe years, but probably months and weeks. You start to see kind of where the universe is. And so what we did is we looked at the books and the TV shows and even some of the comics and tried to figure out what's going on in the Star Wars universe at this time. So what's going on is the rebellion is just at its beginning. Hasn't just started. Obviously, it's been going on since Rebels. Rebels starts around 5 years before A New Hope. So in that period, the rebellion is going from a bunch of separate groups, and you have Saw Gerrera's group, and they're basically terrorists, and you have the rebellion group with Bail Organa and Mon Mothma, and you have a bunch of splinter groups beginning to come together. So this is kind of in that period. Meanwhile, the Imperial, the Galactic Empire is assembling. They've moved from the clones, who are kind of aging out because of the accelerated aging, and the clones are kind of going away, and they're just like, hey, join the Empire. This is your time. Serve your world. And you have the core worlds, which are the main worlds of the Star Wars universe. Then you have the Tatooines and the Jakkus and all of these kind of outer rim areas, which the Empire is very much like, do you have something we can mine on your planet? If not, we don't know you. We don't care who you are.
What do you got for us, Dirt World? Nothing?
Nothing? We're out of here. We're either bombing you or having you mine, or like the Wookiees. Or
put in a gas station. We'll swing by.
Yeah, so there's these two groups, and not everybody has the same access to information. And so the Jedi have basically, by 5 years after Revenge of the Sith, 99% of the Jedi are gone. There's probably a handful at that point, and they're all in hiding, I would think. Yeah. Kanan kind of lets the Empire know, hey, I'm a Jedi, and they're like, oh, cool, kill that guy first. Kanan from Rebels. So we're at a point where most of the Jedi are gone. People, I think,
there's a great shot too in that trailer with the
and I think when people saw that the kind of dilapidated Jedi statue in the Rogue One trailer, they're like, wait, these are the Jedi. These are the peacekeepers of the universe. Why is it all dilapidated? Why wouldn't somebody keep that up? And you realize that, they've already said that, Rogue One is probably a Jedi-less film. You start saying, wait, where are the Jedi? I mean, where are we in this? And what it looks like very much so is that people have not only not come into contact with the Jedi over these last couple of years, people are at the point where they've been so out of touch with the Jedi that they're not even sure the Jedi are even real anymore. They're a myth, they're a fantasy, they're fairy tales, and their non-existence and their non-connection to most of the core, the Outer Rim worlds. Like, hey, yeah, Jedis are something I heard about, but I've never seen one.
Yeah.
This is like 10,000 people that were in one location on one
They're
planet.
like a chupacabra.
Yeah, and they only went to areas where there was conflict. So if you weren't in any of those areas of conflict, you've never seen them, and you probably may have never even heard of them. So I think the Jedi went from being something that was very real to a myth very soon after, and the Empire was very good at changing the stories and taking the Jedi out and referring to Mace Windu as the leader of a criminal gang who started the Clone Wars.
Well, I mean, it is very, you see that sort of coverage in just real world events too. So I think it's an interesting way to sort of try and give somebody a hook into understanding how things went awry in the Star Wars universe. But it also, to me, says, like, education there really sucks. And they could have used an internet, like, years before. They can do hyperspace, you can build lightsabers, Death Stars, but there's not any weird way to, not a weird way, but any way to share information.
There's the HoloNet, which gets turned on and off every now and then when the Galactic Empire doesn't want people to know stuff in certain areas.
So
they can turn it off.
Like AOL, like it's on dial-up.
Yeah, the dial-up. They hear the screeching, they turn it off. Palpatine's got a switch in his office. The access to information seems very limited across the Star Wars universe, and it's very word of mouth in some areas, especially in the not so technologically advanced parts of it.
I don't know. That's just it's kind of screwy to me, but I like it. I'm just saying it just seems like one of those things where you're trying to retcon in now, like why
a little bit. I think although if you even in the first Star Wars movie, Han Solo knows they exist, but the Jedi are becoming, and even in some of the Senate scenes where they're like, even the Imperials are like, oh yeah, that hokey religion. They don't think of it as
Mr. gets
choked out and reminded that the Force is real.
Yeah.
But it's very much a like, yeah, it's a thing, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's almost at the point where it's not real, or we're
Is that the way
mocking
people
it.
look at like New Age stuff from the 70s?
I think very much so.
Oh wow. And then we found out some more stuff this week about Galen Erso and director Krennic, Orson Krennic. Now, the Rogue One Catalyst prequel novel will cover their relationship more, and it's going to kind of, it really is drawing more parallels to like the Manhattan Project and the real world stuff.
Yeah, it seems like Galen Erso is kind of the architect of what I'm assuming is the turbo laser on the Death Star. Not so much the architect of the entire Death Star project, but the architect around this particular laser. Because if you notice in the first trailer, that's the only part that you see being constructed,
right,
or actually getting put onto the Death Star. It looks like everything else is pretty much done. So it sounds like it's kind of a race to make sure that laser isn't operational in much the same way that the kind of Manhattan Project was like.
Right.
We're building this amazing, crazy, powerful weapon that will hopefully end all wars, which is what they said when they built the Gatling gun, and that didn't exactly happen.
Yep. Well, let us know your thoughts in the comments about Rogue One, what the state of the Empire, and how they're explaining away people not knowing about the Jedi. Let us know in the comments. Now, in closing, we just want to let you guys know this weekend, coming to theaters, Ouija, Origin of Evil, Jack Reacher, Never Go Back, which is probably not a good title for a sequel when you think about it. You want people to go back to the movie.
They should come back to theaters.
And that just literally hit me. I'm like, that's a really horrible title for a sequel. Never Go Back. Wait, they listened to you. They didn't go, I guess.
Should have just been called More Reacher.
What else we got? Coming, Keeping Up with the Joneses, and then some smaller films opening up in New York and LA is this critically acclaimed indie film called Moonlight, and then what's the
Shin Godzilla got extended by a couple more days.
Yeah,
so you might be able to see it this weekend.
And then another film called The Handmaiden. So that's all stuff coming out the theaters this week. Oh, and of course Tyler Perry's Boo, a Medea Halloween. Halloween. You scared me. You know that?
More Boo.
Now, next week we're going to talk about, of course, the box office. I am curious to see the Blumhouse little.
Is the magic still there?
Yeah, like they've. What was that deadline said? Did they pass
I think $2 billion.
$2 billion. the box office. That's amazing.
For like you said earlier, we discussed this earlier, a strictly horror-focused production company.
Yeah, micro budget stuff. It's a really fascinating sort of machine.
Horror has probably one of the best, return on investment than almost any other genre.
Yeah.
They don't cost a lot to make. They don't cost a lot to kind of promote. You put the name out there, you go, and I mean, the returns on those are generally enough to support all of these sequels for these movies that when you first see them, like, oh, that seems like a tiny little movie.
Yeah.
And then 4 Conjurings later, you're like, oh, well, I guess.
Yeah, and then the Purge and Paranormal Activity. I gotta say though, I know he's not quite the box office powerhouse that he used to be, but Tyler Perry, also his movies have made close to $800 million.
Having your own studio helps.
So again, like another small budget, like just factory.
Targeted.
Yeah.
You target. You make movies for a specific audience, and it's like the Christian firefighter.
Yeah.
I forgot which
faith-based films.
The faith-based films where they target a specific audience.
Yeah.
They market to that specific audience, and that audience comes out in drove to specific locations.
Right.
You don't see as much of that targeting in the way that everybody's trying to do these 4 tentpole gigantic movies right now. But
Right.
Clearly, it's working for some people.
It's going to be interesting to see too what sort of box office prowess Tom Cruise will have with a sequel that's getting pretty negative reviews. Like our own reviewer wasn't exactly nuts, but I found it fairly. So it'll be curious. Tom Cruise's stuff has never opened. Like it's opened, I think his biggest opening was around like 74 million. But I'll be curious to see. This movie's not going to do that. I mean, Jack Reacher was kind of lucky it even got a sequel. So.
I was surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, between that and Wick seems to be the one that people talk about the most. People have the most affection for out of kind of two similar kind of big name action movies, because we don't see a lot of that style of action film anymore.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this week's show. Send us your thoughts at keepingitreal@ign.com. Follow us on Twitter at Ahmad Childress, at Jim Vivida. Terry should be back next week, I think. She's off gallivanting around England.
Yeah.
And for all things movies, keep it here on IGN.